welcome. I'm here with Christine Saari. She is a graduate of our advanced program and a C-IAYT. And we're here today to talk about a client Christine worked with who came to her for depression, I believe. So thanks for being here, Christine.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us how you met this person and, what they came in with and, how they presented when you met them.
So my client got in touch with me after searching the internet for yoga therapy, which was really excellent to hear that word is getting out there about the benefits of yoga therapy. And she was experiencing treatment-resistant depression, very long-standing, very serious. And she had tried, in her words, everything. She had tried it all. She had frequently experienced bouts of inpatient therapy, and she had a whole list of diagnoses, including CPTSD, general anxiety disorder, PMDD, but her primary concern was the depression. She had been on ketamine for a while as her most recent treatment that she had tried, and she was frustrated that it was no longer working, which prompted her to search for yoga therapy.
Great. Okay. So, and had she done yoga before?
She hadn't done any extensive yoga. She had done a little bit here and there, but it was never something that was a big part of her life.
Okay. And yeah, maybe you could share with us what kinds of practices you did with her and how she fared.
Yeah, so I would say that our primary practice was a stimulating breath work, which we call Brahmana breath work, as you know. And this involved a ratio of inhaling for 4, holding her breath in for 4 counts, and breathing out for 4 with no retention of the breath out. That was her primary practice. We also did quite a bit of moving and breathing using that breath ratio in and out of postures that involved a little bit of heart opening. For example, Warrior One, moving into Warrior One, holding the breath with a little bit of a back bend, and in and out of chair pose, that kind of thing as well. So primarily gentle back bends, prone back bends, locust pose, cobra, as well as supine, some bridge, moving and breathing with the same ratio.
Okay, so that was your strategy. And so you did this, I mean, obviously you taught this to her, and then did she do this at home?
She did. She required quite a bit of support on my part. She had articulated that motivation was a challenge for her, and she was looking for extra support. So we had an agreement that she would text me an emoji every time she practiced. And then if I didn't hear from her a certain number of times a week, which was about 4 times a week, then I would get in touch with her, which I did have to do on a couple of occasions. And she seemed to really appreciate that extra level of care.
Okay, and how often she practiced? About 4 times a week, I'm hearing. And then how long did you work with her for?
So I'll back up for just a moment. She practiced mini practices of just breath work every day, twice a day.
Okay.
Her longer asana practices were about 4 times a week.
Great. Okay. And how much time did those longer asana practices take?
Those were pretty short still, about 20 minutes, I would say.
Okay. So 20 minutes 4 times a week, and then twice a day she did this breathing practice, which took a few minutes.
Yes.
And what we're probably all wanting to know is how were the results. So how long did you work with her, and what happened with her? What did she report the results of the practices for?
So before we get into the results, there was one more element of practice that was really relevant for her. So simultaneously with the breath work and the asana featured breath work, we also had some spiritual and devotional practice that was key, I think, in the long-term commitment to really sustain her interest in the practice. And that involved setting up a spiritual practice that helped her to feel connected. She was living at home with her parents, even though she was in her middle-aged years. And this was a source of great kind of emotional pain for her and probably shame. So she needed to carve out not only a physical place to practice, but also an emotional space as well. So she
Hmm.
set up a shrine to Lakshmi, and we also included some chanting as well of a Lakshmi mantra for her. And this served to form a container for her to kind of create the space for herself to do her 4 times a week practice.
Excellent. And did you introduce the idea of Lakshmi to her, or was that something she knew about before? How did she land there?
She did have a history of feeling very connected to divine feminine energy. So this was something that she brought into the intake with her, that she was aware
Hmm.
of these practices, but she hadn't ever formed a spiritual practice around those connections. She was looking for ways of tying in deeper beliefs into her work as well. So I think it would be, amiss to not include the spiritual aspect of her practice in really kind of supporting the transformative aspects of. So it wasn't just breath work, but it was really something that resonated even more deeply with her.
Right. And I like the way you connected it to something she sort of already had interest in, which is, I'm sure, what you do with anybody. Um, okay, so she did these practices, and tell us what the results were for her.
So really quite remarkable results. I would say it was about 4 months to 6 months or so, and her affect really shifted. So initially, she was very static, very low, speaking slowly, just not a lot of lift or lightness in her energy, and she felt stuck in every way, physically, in her personal life, and really just in her level of energy to get through her day. So she would spend, long days on the couch, just very much immobilized. Her affect changed visibly over the course of the work. So I would reflect this back to her and let her know that it seemed like her energy was a little bit higher, and she would acknowledge, yes, in fact, I do feel a little bit more energized in general. And I would say by about 4 to 6 months, she actually said, I don't really think that I am depressed anymore. I've been out of my depression now for a while. And she expressed a desire over the long term to speak with her healthcare professionals to try to figure out if it would be possible for her to taper her medication. She feels that she's in remission with her depression, and as a result, she has more energy for relationships. She has a child. She has more energy for being present with her child, and she's feeling, generally her outlook is more hopeful. So it's really, really exciting to see the slow kind of shift week to week. And I should also say that we met weekly, whereas many clients, as you know, with yoga therapy, we often see our clients less frequently. But in this particular case, we did meet much more often. So over the course of that time, week by week, it was slowly shifting her energy level to the point that just speaking in conversation, she seemed more buoyant and more present. It's really
Wow.
exciting.
Well, seems like time really well spent. And I'll just say, I've also worked with a lot of people um, with depression, and it's not always easy to get any momentum and create change. So clearly, your relationship with her really went well, and that is a big result for somebody um, with the conditions that she has. So I hope that's inspiring to other people who are suffering from similar things to seek a yoga therapist. And if they're near you, you would be an excellent choice. So thank you for sharing that. That's really a lovely story, lovely yoga therapy story.
Yeah, it does. It does give us all hope. I know depression is one of the more serious conditions, and when it's affected us or our loved ones, it's really impactful to see that some of these practices can be very beneficial. So, thanks for having me to chat about it.
Thank you. Thank you for recording this with us. Um, and blessings to you and your work. Om
You
Shanti.
as well. Om Shanti.